Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be how to deal with 6.24 and mainly the global node destructive feedback. So what it basically does, it stores up all the damage for 10 seconds. Then if you get touched by opponent within those 10 seconds, the damage is reflected back on you. If the 10-second timer expires, opponent is taking their damage as if they would normally do. And then it goes in cooldown for 15 seconds and you can play as normal. So first fight is going to be kind of like an example of what not to do. And number one is like you are allowed your initial parry, but if you have dealt any damage whatsoever while that yellow icon is active, do not get touched by opponent, do not parry, do not let him touch you, because all of the damage you had done previously will be reflected onto you. So as we saw there with Captain America, we did initial parry, we did not take any damage. However, then later on when we did our second parry, we took all the damage we would have dealt the yellow jacket instead. So that is kind of the main trick. Just keep an eye on that yellow icon. And for most part, the best way is just to play it safe, wait it out. And then when the icon expires, you can go and play as normal, punish opponent. As we saw here again, we did some damage to him and we took the damage back. It also affects damage over time debuffs, so all of the bleeds, all of the shocks, all of the poisons or whatever else you're going to be placing on opponent, they store the damage within the compounds of that protective shielding, and then when you do get touched by opponent, it all gets reflected up on you. So yeah, even damage over time debuffs you really need to be careful about. Now second fight is going to be how we can simply change our playstyle, play a bit more careful, and basically avoid all of the incoming damage. So we started with a parry as normal, landed a heavy attack, and now we're basically kind of playing keep away from that yellow jacket until the yellow protective shielding expires, and then we are free to play as normal. And that is what we're going to be doing throughout the entire fight. We're just going to be keeping an eye on the protective shielding, and whenever it's active, we're just going to stay away from a yellow jacket, doing our best for him not to touch us. Also, if you haven't done any damage since that shield activated, you're still free to parry, you're still free to attack. It's just once you have actually landed a hit or had any bleed effects on him. So when he just goes into that yellow shielding, you're still free to play as normal. It's just as soon as you have done any actual damage, you have to stay away from him. Like now, I haven't done any damage, I'm free to parry. But since I just did a heavy attack, if I don't want the damage reflected on me, I need to stay away from him till the timer expires. Now it has, now I can parry again and play as normal. So this global node, there is no real cheese methods. It's nothing too bad either. It's slightly annoying. It gives you no benefit. However, it also has no champion restrictions as such, so you can pretty much play around this global node with any champion in your roster just by altering your playstyle, being more careful, knowing when not to touch opponent, when not to block, when not to parry, basically. However, that also means that champions like Captain America, Infinity War, Call Obsidian, Archangel, and many other champions who rely on being able to land parries and then punishing opponents are probably not going to be your best bets. So champions who will work extremely well for this node and are able to pretty much bypass it for the most part are champions that do not rely on basically physical contact, that get easy openings in opponents. So that would be like Ghost. We're gonna have a video of Stark Spider-Man later on. Wasp is great at this as well. Nick Fury's synergy is gonna be extremely helpful for you to kind of have that safety blanket when you're doing your intercepts. But yeah, any champion that has an easy way to find openings in opponent without them touching you, without you needing to block or parry, will be kind of like better for these nodes. So Ghost is fantastic. Then we have Quake that doesn't touch or get touched by opponent, but you do need to be careful with Quake just because you can't let them, you can't actually block, so you do need to be able to fully heavy and dexterity opponents' attacks. So as we saw there with Ghost, it's pretty much a regular fight. You just kind of need to be careful not to accidentally parry or block opponents' hits while the yellow shielding's on, but for most part you can just ignore the global node completely. Also, what's good for this node is Stark Spider-Man, for instance. Just kind of because you will be spending quite a bit of time dancing about, evading and waiting, and that is a perfect time to build your poise charges. And because of that, you're pretty much always going to be playing with max poise charges, which is extremely beneficial for Stark Spider-Man. And you also have that assisted special evade, which will come in handy against some opponents who have annoying special attacks. But yeah, once again, this node is not champion specific. You can use every single champion. It just kind of makes you change your playstyle, and then some of these champions deal better with the change of playstyle. Like Stark Spider-Man thrives on it. He has absolutely no problems dodging back, evading, building those poise for a while until the protective shielding is active, and then going in there and dishing large amounts of damage in short amount of time. So yeah, bursty champions are great for this as well. And yeah, as you can see here, the fight's nearly over. That's a rank 4 Stark Spidey. Haven't taken like hardly any damage, and the fight is over. So next fight I'm going to be using, I believe I'm going to be using Aegon, just to show that you can also take it to pretty much the other extreme, and you can, instead of being passive, you can be aggressive. It is obviously a lot riskier because one slip up means you're going to take a lot of damage. However, for most part, you can just do a lot of intercepts, hit opponent in block, and kind of punish their special attacks and completely ignore the node itself. But that is a lot riskier, as I mentioned before, and you need to kind of be a lot more on the ball. But then you can also stay aggressive if you wish. However, once again, this is not like the ideal method of fighting here, because you get punished for your mistakes really hard. If the fight goes perfect, that's fine. However, if you do make a slip up, well, then you will have made a big one. But yeah, while the fight is happening in the background, and before we move on to kind of overall view of the map and the boss, so my overall thoughts about this node is that it's actually pretty much alright. I mean, it's slightly annoying, but I don't feel as if it's like cash grabby. It's, in my opinion, kind of like skill encouraging, because you can play completely around it without pretty much any penalty, so long as you like don't make mistakes. And I do like that kind of content. I enjoy it. It kind of challenges you, it pushes you. It can be frustrating at times. Obviously, when you make mistakes, make slip-ups, they will hurt so much more. But overall, this is what Act 6.2 should have been about, in my opinion. It should have been like a test of skill, how well you can change your playstyle, how well you can adapt to these new nodes. Unfortunately, it went way too overboard, in my opinion, and they combined something that's healthy, something that's skill encouraging, like this global node, with many kind of annoying really difficult roster specific fights, and that I cannot support. However, the global nodes themselves so far in all of the quests, I think are actually fine. I think they did a fantastic job designing the global nodes. Whoever filled the map in afterwards and designed the local nodes and path nodes and gates, that was not done so well, to put it lightly. That was a horrible job by someone. However, fantastic job on global nodes. I definitely have been enjoying them. The problem starts, when you get into the thicker and harder paths. So, as we can see here, the fight's nearly over. Aegon has ramped up his combo a decent amount. We only have a few hits left to finish off this Black Widow. And yeah, we pretty much, for most part, ignored the global node, played around it, stayed aggressive, nothing bad happened. But that is a risky play. It is much kind of easier to play around it once you're playing safe. You need to be careful of champions that have kind of difficult to evade special attacks though. You really, really need to pay close attention to them, their power bars, and how you're going to play around it. There's annoying magic as well that you'll have to deal with. Iron Man Infinity War, obviously, as well, not kind of the easiest option to deal with. We have really annoying improved power gain Doctor Strange there. Then we have also Symbiote Supreme that gives out local nodes with basically power gain on this entire path. So this path on the right is probably going to be one of the more problematic ones for you. Then that Hood had Bane on him, but that's not too big of a deal. And as far as it goes for the boss is actually quite alright. He doesn't have anything too special. He's stun immune, he has empowered immunity, force of will, and unblockable finale, and obviously the global node. So basically, for most part, it's just a stun immune Kingpin. You can use any champion to take him down. He will not be a problem for you. And interestingly enough, that empowered immunity can actually be used to your benefit, just because you can like try and parry stun him on purpose. Then he's gonna gain some power, and then you can bait out his level 1. So that's like again an easy safe tactic. But overall, the quest itself, I think the global node is well designed, the boss isn't too difficult. Some of the fights there are going to be annoying. Even that first Hyperion on the right side can be problematic. But yeah, overall I hope this video is going to help you guys dealing with 624. And if it did help you, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm going to see you guys soon.